Well, good afternoon. This is Patrick Wehrly with the Wehrly Group here in Houston, Texas. Also offices up in Plano, and then satellite offices down in Katy and Sugar Land. I wanted to spend a couple minutes with you today. I'm getting a lot of phone calls about stagflation. Yes, I'm still getting calls about inflation, and we're going to have inflation with us for quite some time, but a lot of people are saying, well, I've heard about stagflation, I've heard we're in stagflation, we're going in there. Kind of, could you spend a little time on that? So again, kind of this format is that when a lot of our clients are wondering about something, sometimes it's easier and more cost efficient to do a video that people can watch, because I know other people have those same questions, and so that's kind of the format here. So again, stagflation is where you have what's called a cost push. You have costs, rising costs, pushing inflation. And let me give you an example. Right now we have dramatically higher oil prices. Well, the higher oil prices are creating an issue in terms of profits. If a company's diesel bill was $20,000  3 or 4 months ago, it might be $30,000 or $40,000 now. So oil prices are pushing this poor company to pay higher oil prices, higher diesel prices, so that's driving their profits down. So it's a combination of the higher cost of oil, for instance, or by the way, food, and then of course, obviously, the lower profits as a result. By the way, another quick word on inflation. A lot of people are, in just the last couple of days, are calling and saying, wow, what happened to Walmart? Or what happened to Target, or things like that? Here's what you need to understand. If your company that you like, if you were buying their stock, for instance, and they had a profit margin of, let's say, 10%, if inflation is running at 9%, then instantly, overnight, you just reduced their profit margin of 10%, which you were impressed by, which is one of the reasons you were buying their stock. It reduced it to 1%, and they may not look as good, and the price of their stock might not look as good with a 1% return as it did at 10. So again, keep that in mind in some of the crazy things that you're starting to see. So again, the stagflation is a little different than inflation. Again, with inflation, you've got prices, your goods, your services, they're increasing. That's almost kind of normal. It's normal for things to cost more these days than they did some years ago. I heard a great story on gold the other day that I really liked. A gentleman said that, 100 years ago, you could walk into a man's clothing store and you could, for a gold coin, and you could buy a beautiful men's suit, tailored vest, maybe a walking cane, boots, shoes, really shirt, just a whole outfit for a gold coin. And the story was, as you may have already guessed, is that you can still do that today. That's right. If I have a 1 ounce gold coin, and I'm not suggesting gold, but I think it's an interesting story about inflation, I can walk into pretty much any men's clothing store today for that 1 gold coin worth about $2,000 today, and I can get a pretty nice men's suit. So again, just an interesting way of what that looks like. I remember ordering my first Ford pickup truck when I got out of high school. Man, that was a whopping $5,200, and that was a lot of money. I mean, we were scraping to come up with a down payment. Well, recently one of my clients bought kind of the same truck, a little newer, of course, model 2022, with all the bells and whistles, and it was $85,000. Well, big difference between a brand new Ford truck for $5,200 and a brand new Ford truck for $85,000. So again, that's a good example of inflation. Here's the problem. Stagflation is a little different because as prices get higher and higher and higher, it begins to stagnate economic growth. People quit going to the store. People quit buying new cars. People quit buying RVs. They quit buying clothing. They quit taking vacation trips because everything has become so expensive. So that creates stagnation. Step 1. Step 2, that then creates unemployment. Obviously, Disney's not going to have as many people working at a theme park the airlines are not going to have as many flights if the pricing is creating a stagnation, stagflation, in the economy. A horrible example of this, by the way, was Jimmy Carter's presidency. Back in 1979, he did a very famous television program in which he tried to explain what was happening, and of course what he was talking about was stagflation. Interestingly, Ronald Reagan handled that very differently. Ronald Reagan did a wonderful job of turning the economy around at that time by dramatically reducing government spending and other costs and budget items. He was a big fan of that, and that's the way he was raised, and it turned out to be very, very effective. So there again is a great difference between the Jimmy Carter administration and again the administration of Mr. Reagan. Now, kind of in winding this down a little bit, thank you for telling us, Patrick, how difficult things are. Thank you for reminding us that we have to get a mortgage on our home to fill up this afternoon on the way home from work, or again, borrow money to buy red meat. How do we get out of it? How does that work? What does that look like? So once again, there's kind of two popular ways to deal with this, one of which we're doing right now. The Fed is increasing interest rates. Well, of course, that is designed to slow the economy. Higher interest rates slow the economy and begin to kind of work on inflation. Interestingly, there's an opposite view of that whole matter. You can raise economic growth. How do you do that? By lowering interest rates. So again, it's the Fed is not an enviable position to be in these days, because again, both schools of thought have worked in the past. Again, if I have better economic growth, then my economy is no longer stagnant. It's growing, it's thriving, it's responding. It's a better environment because interest rates are lower. Again, right now, we're raising interest rates, and that's kind of our attempt at not only taming inflation, but stagflation as well. So again, we are tax experts. We know a little bit about pretty much everything. Look forward to helping you, working with you. If you have any questions, you'd like to call us or maybe stop by about this subject or any others, we'd certainly be happy to visit with you. Thank you again for your time. Patrick Wehrly out.